Welcome, everyone, to A Mexican and Redneck Follow the World. We're your host and surrogate fathers, Juan and Ben? Question mark? Today we'll be discussing, do you really like your kids?
I'm still Juan.
You're still Juan?
No, I'm still Ben. You're still Juan.
Am I?
Are we?
Juan?
Do we really even
I
exist?
don't know. Who knows? Probably just some figments of their imagination.
I don't know. But
Anyways, do you really like your kids, Ben?
so my dad, this all started from a memory I had of my dad. He looked at me one day and he said, "I love you and I like you." And I was like, wow. And you'll hear people talk about how, their dad took care of them
Mm-hmm.
and their dad, gave them food, clothes, a place to stay, made sure they went to school and stuff, but they didn't like them, right? Like they loved them. They were responsible for them, but they're like, my dad just didn't like me. And it occurred to me, like, how many people actually like their kids? Because I like my kids in addition to loving them. I think they're fascinating.
Well,
humans.
define that. Define that, because what do you mean by like, and what do you mean by love?
So I'm trying to raise people who I could go have lunch with in 20 years. I could invite them for lunch, and I would be happy to eat lunch with them, however many times a week or whatever, and say, hey, we're sitting down for this lunch, and I'm just excited to hear about your life because the path you're choosing, the interests you have, the people you've chose to surround yourself with are people that it's a path that I can like, I can enjoy your presence and like, I like you. Cause like my daughter, she likes ballet and interpretive dance and all this stuff. And I've never been a fan of dance, but my daughter likes it and I like being around her. And so it's like, wow, I found myself really liking dance, whereas I didn't before. My son's really he's getting into karate, he's only 5, but he's really liking it. And so he'll tell me about karate, and I never really cared much for karate.
Mm-hmm.
I like watching street fights on YouTube and stuff, but I never really cared much for the organized stuff. But when he talks to him, I'm like, man, this is really cool. I could see why you like it, But do you like the interest your kids like? And my littlest tells me about unicorns or unicorns to the rest of you. And she'll tell me about her unicorn ponies. And my little pony is just the most fascinating thing in the world to me right now because my daughter likes it, my littlest.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it's like, do you like your children's interest? Are you taking time to get to know them as a person, or are you just providing for them? Because our children are different people from us.
Yeah.
And I had this like really cool revelation the other day. My littlest, she's 3, and she wanted to dump the bubbles, the dish soap into the bathtub to make bubbles for her bubble bath. And she's like, I want to do it. She's pouring it in. I was like, oh, that's so cute. And then it kind of hit me. It's like, do I think she's just here for my amusement? Like, oh, that's so cute. You hear people say that about kids. Oh, it's so cute. And it occurred to me, she's not trying to amuse me. She's trying to be an adult. She's trying to grow into her own.
Yeah.
She's trying to figure out who she is as a person. And yeah, she's 3, but she's already trying to do the stuff she sees the adults doing. And it's like, oh, our children are a reflection of ourselves. And that got me down a deeper path of, do we really like ourselves when we say we do or don't like our children? And that was kind of the purpose of this. I know it's taken me a minute to explain it, but
It's okay.
it's actually taken me about 4 minutes.
It's our
to our
podcast. If
accountant.
people don't like it, go listen to Joe Rogan. But no,
that was the thought.
that's really good. Yeah, yeah. That thought you bring up. If you like yourself, because I guess in order to like your kids, if you don't like your kids, the question is, what do you like yourself? Because that is so true. They are a carbon copy of you. They are a reflection of you, a different reflection of you. my dad had a saying, and it was like he always said this thing about the kid. He's like, the thing you can't stand is the thing that you have at home. And I'm like looking back now that I have kids, I was like, I keep on thinking about that because he would be there would be things that we would do that he hate, like he couldn't stand it, but then he would do them. It's like, wait, we learned this from you. Like looking back, I'm like, I learned this from you. So the thing that you don't like this is the thing that I'm doing because I learned it from you. So that's a great analogy. It's like, do you not, because we all can say, I love my kids. I would do anything for them, but you don't actually like them. Like, yeah, I really don't like hanging out with him because he's a douchebag. It's like, well, are you a douchebag? How many friends do you have? I don't have friends. I had one friend in high school, and that was me, and most of the time I was angry at him. If you're that type of person, it's like, you got to evaluate yourself.
Sure. And then the other thing is, sometimes people get married and love each other, and they get married, have kids, and I've heard people say this. It's not my situation, but they say, well, I don't like my wife, and I loved her and I still love her, but she does stuff that I just absolutely hate, and they haven't overcome that issue they have with their spouse. And your kid could very well be just like your spouse, and they might have inherited that one single trait and made it one of their primary traits where it was a passing thing with your spouse. And now that thing you hated about your spouse, you hate that about your kid, Or maybe your kid ended up like your parents, and you hated that grandparent, and your kid just reminds you of that grandparent. And so the thought is like, you gotta, if you don't like your kids, probably has nothing to do with your kids, because they just want you to love them and like them. If you take nothing away from this, take this away. Your kids look up to you. They want to love you. They want to like you.
There is this. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I apologize.
Thank you. No, I was just gonna say, you need to take this away. You need to forgive yourself, forgive others, get over whatever hurt you have, and don't hold your children hostage because you can't get over your little issues as an adult. And quit being a beta, step up and be an alpha.
There you go. That's it. That's it. Oh, that's so funny. That's so funny. Man, there's with me and my kids, there's this stage in life with the kids when they're little where they just look up to you. My son, he's 2 years old, and I love coming home. Like, I work in my backyard, so when I go inside and get inside, it's always like, Dada! And it's like, yeah, it's like, Dada! And he runs, and he's like, Dada, Dada, and he's like kind of in the stage where he can't really talk, but he can say some words, and then he'll like, and I'm like, but he's like so excited to see me, and I'm thinking, I'm like, man, what a precious time, and I don't want to lose that, but because how many of us have that parent where you go home and you're like, oh, I gotta go visit my dad. Crap. So, hey, Dad. And that Dada is gone. And it's like, what happened?
Yeah, kids. I have not seen a kid that doesn't want their parent. If their parents are just horrible to them, by about the age of 5 to 7, you can tell they've been horrible and that kid's hiding from them. But most kids want their parents to love them and like them.
At all ages, at all stages.
Like, I love that I still get to have a relationship with my mom. I was Skyping with her yesterday for like half an hour and just telling her about the podcast and what's going on in our lives. And I was just happy to spend half an hour talking to my mom and seeing her face. That was just the greatest. And I had as good of a relationship as I could have with my dad. He was a very secretive person. So there was a level of vulnerability where I wouldn't get in. But I still had a good enough relationship with him. But I and my grandpa, like, I cherish these relationships where there's this parental figure you've grown up with, whether it be grandparents, parents, whatever. And you've looked up to them all your life, and now they're accepting you as an adult. Like, that's like they had to accept you until you were 18. But now that you're an adult and they continue to accept you, oh, it's incredible. It's like, oh, I made it. You know, I put the bubbles in the bath just right. You know, like because she's my daughter putting, you know, going back to that imagery of her just wanting to pour the bubbles in the bath. Well, yeah, it's a fun thing to do, but she's getting to be like the adults. She's carrying her own. I'm seeing signs where she's saying, I want to be like you. You put the bubbles in before. Now I'm fighting my brother to put the bubbles in because I want to do it. It's like, whoa, this is incredible. These people love me and like me.
Can you like somebody without loving them?
I don't know. I think you're using people if you like them without loving them.
Can you like your kids but not love them?
I don't know. That's a good question.
My gosh, what kind of parent are you? We're fathering the world here, Ben. These people need answers.
Disclaimer, we're just giving you our perspectives on life. We might not always have the right answer, but we have the right answer all the time.
Good fatherly advice right there.
But do exactly what we say because we have the right answer. We are your fathers. No.
But I keep on thinking about this, Ben, as far as like, if you don't like your kids, is there something about you that you're seeing in them that you don't like about yourself, but you just don't realize it? And instead of dealing with it, you're just putting it on their kids and be like, yeah, I don't like you. But you don't actually want to deal with that issue that's causing you not to like your kids.
Sort of the what's the old saying, like sins of the father?
Yeah.
That thing, like that thing in you that you are too weak to overcome. And instead of overcoming it, you're subjecting your children to the pain that you deal with every day, and you're just passing that pain along to the next generation because you were too weak to deal with it. And so you're subjecting them to the pain you feel every day. That thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Man, that's good. That's good. Because I was trying to put words to it, and I was like, man, what is that? I don't know. So that you put it into great perspective. But as far as, let's go back to fun things, liking your kids. What do you like about your kids?
Oh my goodness, they're so fun, so much joy, and they're also different in so many wonderful ways. Like I didn't know, like I was scared to be a dad. I know that's ironic now, considering I'm trying to develop a podcast about being a dad. But I was afraid of being a dad, and my wife's like, "Why don't you want to be a dad?" I'm like, kind of afraid because I never had one around all the time, and I didn't have a good example. And so it's like, I don't know if I can even fill this role. And in my experience, being a dad means you're going to create a lot of chaos. So I don't really know if I want to do that. And there were good times, but there were some rough times. And so I didn't know if I even wanted to, but now it's like, man, I'm getting to see, you know, one, you get the joy of seeing yourself in these children. And if you like who you are, then you might like these children. But also watching these little humans grow and develop and go through stages in life. And one thing I've observed is as they experience stuff at age 3 or 5 or 8, whatever they are, they'll experience something and we talk a lot. I talk a lot to my kids. I think that's the best thing you can do is just have open dialogue with them regularly. And let them ask questions. Let them come to conclusions and understand the ways of the world gently in the home instead of saying, well, just watch this movie or, well, just go look it up on the internet. Now have that conversation and let you be the foremost expert and source of their knowledge.
No, go ahead.
Oh, and I was just, but watching them learn and work through stuff. Because when they work through something as a child, I'm thinking back to when I was a child and going, oh, that's what was happening when I was a child. And that's what I was feeling, seeing, and thinking. And it actually creates healing in me because I'm seeing it again through their eyes. But I'm getting to relive that experience I had as a child where it might have caused some confusion or some duress or some problems, you know?
That's so good. So good, man. In your journey as far as being a father, have you always liked your kid or your kids, plural? Or was there a realization where you came to and you're like, man, and you realize, wow, I really like my kids. I love them, but I really like them. Was there like a moment that made you realize that, or something that what caused you to realize that the battle is not just loving your kids, but is also developing a relationship where you actually like being around them?
So that's a really good point. Developing a relationship where you like to be around them, because I think there's kind of 3 categories of being a father. Just a big blanket thing, of course. But one, you love them. They're born. You see this baby. You hold it in your hands. Like, this is incredible. Like, you just there's a love you feel inside, a responsibility to this person, and you're like, I'm going to do the very best I can with what I have to give you the best life that I know how to give you. And then there's the liking the experience. That's 2. That's the step 2 of it. So you've loved them. Now you like the experience with them. So when they're a baby, you know, you love them, so you change their diapers. But when they make that funny goo goo gaga sound for the first time, you're like, oh my goodness, I love this experience. But you still don't like that baby. You don't know anything about that child's personality. You know that they might be very observant because you see them studying people. They might be drawn to colors, or they might be drawn to music because they like to dance as they grow in their, you know, first, second, and third year. But somewhere around that 3rd year, they start to really, really divulge who they are because they can speak. And now you're in the phase where, okay, now they can speak around age 2 or 3 or whatever. It's different for everyone, but now they start speaking and you go, oh man, that's who you are as a person. That's what you like. That's how you perceive the world. This is your perception of what is right and what is wrong. And so that's where that development starts coming along of liking your children. I at least in my experience. So you love your child, you like the experience of being a parent, but then there's the 3rd step in the process where you actually start to develop a relationship and like the child for who they are as a person, because they're a combination of you and your spouse and the home and the culture that y'all have created together. And we talked about culture of your homes and what you're teaching your children to value, you know, what they really see behind closed doors. I think it was like episode 12 or something. And so it's saying, okay, now I'm on step 3. I've reached this 3rd level where this child is someone that I'm interested in. I want to have a relationship with, not just because I love them, not just because I like the experience of being a parent, because this person, there's just something about them that I'm drawn to. Same way I'm drawn to you as a friend, you know, because that's what you're doing, is you're working on that friendship as they develop. So, you know, my kids they like art. And I'm like, oh, wow, y'all really like art. And I'm fascinated to see what they can draw. And it's like, this is inspiring, you know. And the same with your kids. You find yourself liking your friends' kids.
Yeah.
Oh, you're really funny.
Mm-hmm.
Or, oh, that was a really good observation. Or, that's why you really are good at, you know, Elizabeth. She does really good pictures. Like, I've seen them, I'm like, wow, you're only 5. You could really be a real good artist here in the next, you know, 7 years where you're competing with the best.
That's really good. You made a topic right there, and I was like, oh man, that might be a podcast for another podcast episode. Do you like your friends' kids? And if you don't, do you really like your friend? You know, anyways, let's close this out, Ben.
Man, you caught me with that last thought.
It's a good one, isn't it?
It is. I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Do people like my children?
That'll have to be another episode.
It's like, do people really like me? That'll be coming up in the future, folks. We'll figure out how to carefully navigate that one and then deliver it to you, because we might be the only friends we have after that episode. We want to thank you for listening to A Mexican and a Redneck Father the World. We love you and we're proud of you.